I was watching my abandoned engineering program the other day when they brought up this bridge. Now, this bridge is in a place called Newcastle, which we would call North England. It's below Scotland, but it's North England. And you see the two towers on the ends. Well, I'm going to show you another bridge that looks just like that, and it's not in this country. Well, there's two of them actually. So here we go. It's called the Tyne Bridge. Oh, it's me leaning on my table, sorry. Anyway, and then there's the Hellgate Bridge, which is in New York, Manhattan. And that looks the same with the two towers at either end. There it is, the Hellgate. And then there's another one that's very similar, may not have the towers, but that's the Wylam Railway Bridge. And then we have the Sydney Bridge with the towers, just like the one in Newcastle. The programme said that they were built with different materials, but I don't believe it. They look like the same bridge. Anyway, look, we've got more harp coming back. And then I had to do this one. It's been annoying me for weeks on this. As I whip through the channels, I come across this one. It's true crime, and he's supposed to be an officer explaining it to you. But when I look at him, he doesn't half quite look like still Steve Wilco. Even that, look, that's his mannerisms. Anyway, in a moment I'm going to play it so you don't see the top of their heads, and then you'll see how alike they really are. Oh, we haven't got that one in. I might have to just, oh, there he goes back now. It's because I put the bar around it. But you don't know how old Steve Wilco is. It could be Steve Wilco from 5 or 10 years ago. And then this one's this year or whatever. Don't they look alike though? I think that's more disgusting. He's a British bloke, you know, he talks like this. And then we've got Steve Wilco with an American voice. Yeah, it's very alike, aren't they? Anyway, that's the end of today's video. Hello everyone, this was a video of the Rolling Stones in 2022, the 8th of the 3rd, 2022, in Berlin, live concert, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards. I don't think any of it is real, and when I tell you there's CGI composites, this video kind of explains it, because you think that he's racing around on the stage singing and there's an audience, whereas I see a green screen and he's been put in the footage. And when you have footage and it shows that somebody's in it, if they're really there, they're really there. Their head doesn't disappear, go wonky and do all those weird things. It just doesn't do what this video's doing. What was the other thing that I noticed? Oh yeah, he's got a strange hand. Arm. Oh my god, I think I might have to show you an extra bit to that so that when I stop at that bit of footage you'll see it. Let's just see if I can find it. We might have to play a little bit more than I thought, but I made this video a while ago. Look at his hand. So this isn't something that they've been doing to us only yesterday. This is when he had lost. So I think it's Trump and it's Trump and Hillary, isn't it, going for it? Look at that shadow on his head. That is just so bizarre. Look at that. You can see a box round his head, and look at that arm. It looks like he's got a beard at times. And it wasn't really him we were looking for. I wanted Hillary's arm. But I mean, look at the state of that arm. Look at that. Just look at the arm. Look at that box round his head. So, supposedly giving him a light. But, yes. This is it. I might just play this bit now. So hopefully we see that bit with our arms. And you'll suddenly see, we'll get to it in a minute. Look at that most amazing cuddle. Oh, there it is. Look at her arm. Just there, look. Now she's only got like, well, it just all looks weird. She doesn't half look like Trump. Made videos about that. Now her hair's changed colour. Look at Obama's face. Because it's all been made for us. So it never happened live. What I've done for this bit of video is just slow the footage down just a tiny bit. Look at that. Her nose is in his face. With those, she looks like Mrs. Thatcher there, but anyway, with those weird arms. I think I made this video in 2022, or it might have been earlier than that, but yes, that was my very upsetting bit, that one is Hillary and one is Trump, and don't they look alike? And how can that be? How can she look like him? But these are the things they do to us. Anyway, we're going to get back to the video I was making about Mick Jagger now. Oh, actually, I just got to show you this bit. So this was Trump walking through the streets of New York when he'd won the election. But you're going to see his hand do this wobble thing, which means he didn't live walk down the street. Look at that. Look at that. See? He is superimposed in, just like the rest. You've been doing it to us for a long time. It isn't something from yesterday. So he's not a goodie either. Look at that. I mean, his face doesn't look right there. Sorry, I've just carried on because it's nearly the end of the video. Look at that. What's going on there? Look at that hand. See the box round it? God, he looks so much younger there, doesn't he? But anyway, now we're going back to the video. Look at that. See, not real. He never walked through the streets. It's all... I mean, it's just all a lie. Oh, look at that. Whatever's going on there. But anyway, it's all a lie. Anyway, as per usual, it's got to not be real. Anyway, watch this video and then leave your comments below.
it's the time that you can take as 2133, which will add 9, or you can take it as 933, which will give you 15, which comes out as 6. This is all a simulated matrix, the whole thing. There is no, it's a phenomenon. If you picture the sky as being like it's a dome, it's like a great big mirror, basically. So what you're getting is the bounce back of the transmission that is coming from below the ground. There's nothing actually up there at all. They're just projections. It's been deliberately confused, but there's also the basis of truth, because outer space is anything that is external of you. That is outer space. No sun. What you're actually getting is there has to be a sun simulator, because there would be no sun at all, and then that would be too obvious. It has to be put there, because all you're going to get, and sun gazers have confirmed this, early in the morning you're getting the sun. The Earth is actually in 4 quadrants, so you're getting the sun from the first quadrant in the morning, and from the third quadrant in the just before sunset, as it were. So they have to fill in the bit in the middle with a fake sun. It is a simulation within a simulation, you could say. First quadrant is considerably slower in linear time, or the concept of linear time, and then it progressively gets faster. It is only from the third quadrant to the fourth quadrant that can be passed without having to go to death, which happens on the 21st of January this year. So what you would class as the asleep or NPCs, or whatever term you want to call them, they're actually ghosts. The real version of their avatar remained in the third quadrant. This is all planned to plan, not by the so-called controllers. They're just playing a role. So at the moment it's like a game of chess. It's like it's their move. Depending on what they do, through coercion and basically coercing people into defending a nation or whatever, they're actually innocent, a lot of them, until they take action. Then they take the karmic retribution that will go with it, because it is unconditional love. So depending on the frequency that is being emitted from the heart, and what face of Eunice that is going to be shown. I was talking to Claudio about this. He'd seen it in the form angel, and I forget what else he said now, but I thought if anybody else will be aware of this, it'll be Claudio. So I've sort of got this, I'm in this sort of position of basically being like for Eunice to communicate through. I'm probably not the only one, but it may be geographical location. This of the world is pole either. Its marker is the Great Pyramid of Giza, because that was longitude and latitude at one time. So things orient that, so that has got a built-in code put into it. I wonder actually if is it going to work when it's reactivated, because it's missing the casing stones. It's like not having the insulation on wire. So I don't know what effect it would have outside of it in its immediate vicinity. Certainly from things I've seen, there is a very negative frequency within the pyramid, because it's not actually meant, wasn't designed for people to go in it. It's definitely not it's not a burial chamber at all. It has a function as much as it encodes human physiology, and it has all kinds of mathematical equations that actually give you the timeline. So 1902 up to 2106, with the capstone on it would be 204 levels. So it's counting up or counting down to 2040, which is the same with the Gregorian calendar. That is actually counting, it's not counting from this alleged birth of Christ, it's counting up to 2040 when there will be a reset. And then it's going to get very interesting. But it's nothing to worry about, because if you're on the right frequency, you just ghost out of this reality. A bit like these stories you get of like the Mary Celeste, what happened to all the people, what happened to these whole settlements where it's like, oh, they've just abandoned everything and there's no trace of them. It's because their frequency has changed. They've been taken out of the game, as it were. Because that is all it is. And it's very much like a lot of computer games. If you don't get in the game, the screen will push the character along, and I think like Sonic the Hedgehog will shrug his shoulders and fall off the bottom of the screen. And that's pretty much what this reality is. Everything is reflecting and hinting at it, but it's been overlaid with a negative default programming, so most people only see the super penetrate beyond that. But I was watching a good channel to watch is Decode Your Reality. The guy's called Logan, and he's just gone over the George Floyd thing, why the police car has got the number 320 on it, why the arresting police officer had badge number 1087, and it ties in numeric codes from ciphers and things. The whole thing is staged. That's his 19th video in that series, but they're definitely worth watching. There's a lot. It's reflected in astrology, it's reflected in using tarot cards, playing cards with numeric values, but you're just getting computer codes. Basically, it's not going to take you back. It doesn't actually serve a purpose apart from showing the whole thing is not a reality at all. It's just basically a diagnostic zone. It's a sorting out of things, but there is no actual death. It just seems so in this reality. It's separation of spirit from matter. But those that have departed this realm just get restored at the age of 20 with a fictional, seamless childhood, and then move into a different sort of reality. That wouldn't be good. That'll bring you right back. And, certainly after 2070, which won't actually be 2070, because after 2046 we'll end up having a new cosmology. So the pole star will shift to something else, and it will be a 240-day year. Human pregnancy will come down to 6 months instead of 9, which makes sense because it will need a more rapid reproduction, because you've also got it's in Genesis, the evening and the morning was the first day. Well, the evening out of things is taking place, this so-called tilt to the earth, because what you'll be witnessing, if, for argument's sake, if the world population is 8 billion, it will be reduced down to 6. So that's a quarter gone. Then it will reduce by a further 2 billion to 4. So it's a sequence of 8, 6, 4, and it's increments of 2. So they're all even numbers. So from 2046, this is why it's the only accurate way to determine anything is to count in days, which is a turning of the stars. Because if you're going to refer to years, you've got to know what year is being referred to, a 360-day year or a 365 and a quarter day year. And who knows what it was before that, because it is so far back. I forget the date now, but everything that we have any chronology and any records of are only from the Genesis reset, which is only really sort of the last between 5,000 and 6,000 years. When we get to 2178, that will be the collapse of everything. The plug gets pulled, and this reality will completely disappear. That's not to say that we're disappear, but anyway, it does come down to heart frequency and the weighing of the heart against the feather. A lot of people won't understand it, but they might find out the hard way. They probably won't have the most preferable experience, shall we say. But it's down to them. That is their free will. If they make that choice, if they're giving away their sovereignty and being coerced, then they will go down that route, and they'll only have themselves to blame. At the end, everything that happens for us, not to us. It's whether we can decode and penetrate what the lessons that are being reflected to us actually are. So there's no enemy, there's no adversary, there are no mistakes, because without those things happening, it's no different from Lilith, from Eve, from Judas. That's a necessary pied, a bit like a play. You get somebody plays the villain, and without the actions, it would not set off the chain of events that are subsequent. So Judas actually represents one of the 12 cranial nerves. That's representing doubt and fear and selling out to the material world for 30 silver. But as in that story, where did it get Judas? In that story, he commits suicide, so realises the error of his ways, but as it were. But that was a part that had to be played, same as Eve played a part, but then took the blame, or it's been twisted so under the patriarch system women are treated as lesser than men, and that's all down to the script of scriptures being taken literally, which then materialises as a literal stage play. We've had the flood, the famous biblical flood, because it gives reference to it, and it's not a war of the flesh, it's the war of the spirit. It's been a flood of information, a mixture of truth and lies, to basically flood the mind. So it's following the pattern, and it will continue to be played out. I would imagine, and it seems highly likely, that the third seal of the apocalypse in the external sense will come not long after the next summer. There'll be something with that. There was also the stopping of Big Ben and the horses running down the road, the white horse and the darker colour horse being hit by the bus, which again is a symbolic confirmation that the first two seals have been broken. And this will continue in 4 yearly, the Olympics. There'll be a seal broken up to 2040, which would be I think if I remember rightly, it'll be the 6th seal by that time, and then the big one comes, the seventh seal, but that's only in the external. The internal, personally for me, has already happened. All 7 have broken. That's why I got that spiritual zip file, which is digesting. But I'm guided as to when to put the information out, as it's sort of channeled from Eunice, because Eunice can't take a single physical form without being stuck in this reality. But it's in the very ether. It surrounds, it's behind the sky as much as it's within and passing through everything that's living. So there's nothing actually to worry about, there's nothing to fight, and there's nothing to fear. The only thing to navigate through is the system coercion and take part, just be an observer, and everything will be absolutely fine. Hi Karen, deep is, well, another word for deep is the abyss. That's the place to go. It's hard to explain. It's sort of like a meditation. It's not even thinking about things, it's what comes through. It's this fifth incarnation of Janus, which is Eunice, which ties in, or is alluded to in the end of the 5th age of the sun in the Mayan calendar, which hasn't happened yet. That whole thing with 2012 was because no one had considered that there was a 360-day year up to, I think it was 713 BC on this calendar. And that's when all the calendars spring from that we've got today. But interestingly, the Mayan calendar even accounts for that, going from 400 years to 300, I think it's 400 years to 394, because of that extra 5¼ days. But we're in a period called the Purge. It's a sorting out of things, but there is no actual death. It just seems so in this reality. It's separation of spirit from matter. But those that have departed this realm just get restored at the age of 20 with a fictional, seamless childhood, and then move into a different sort of reality. It all takes place in this realm. It's not waiting until the point of death and getting this sudden revelation. There's a thought there, but it's gone. That's it. I'll come back in a minute because it'll probably come back. You get churches, religions talk about Calvary. It means skull. Same as Golgotha means skull. And it tells you at the end of Genesis that God dies and is entombed in a skull. And then there's the play out. So this rollback of the stone. It's the birth from above. It's not assisted by a midwife. It's not a physical birth. It's the dreamer that's dreaming the dream, which is what this reality is. It's just a dream. Until that aspect, or that part of the creator that's asleep inside the skull wakes up. the thing to watch for now is the Paris Olympic Games. That will be the next marker. That will be symbolic of the breaking of the third seal, as shown in Revelations. The reason for all these play-outs and things is because the script is following scriptures. But the key point is it's not a war, it's a war of the spirit, not a war of the flesh, so it's ridiculous to try and fight something in the material against something that's, you could say, is supernatural. But let them try. It comes with a huge karmic retribution, so at this present time it's like a game of chess. It's up to the military-industrial complex what they do next as to what will then follow, because it will be met with a response. So it's going to be interesting. It is about unconditional love, so it's without judgment, but it will depend on the actions of individuals as to which face of Eunice they actually will face, which will be a reflection anyway. This is why Eunice can't take a physical form and get stuck in this game, because that's all it is really, it's just a game. I suppose a good analogy would be the Matrix film with that character Silas, which is basically an updated version, is playing the part of Judas. And if I remember rightly, he says, I know this steak is not real, but if I put it in my mouth it'll taste juicy. Something like that anyway. And that's pretty much what it is. We've got 5 senses using the external that have a very limited range. So it requires that deeper penetration of spirit. A good analogy is Plato's cave, that to be aware of the next dimension is to look back at the previous one. So with that Plato's cave analogy, it's like you're fixed looking at shadows on the wall, and the shadows would seem to pass through each other. But the shadows don't have a life. It must be something that you can't see that's projecting those shadows onto the back of the cave wall. And this is pretty much how it is. I mean, we're not in 3 dimensions, we're actually in 4, because people forget about the 4th one, because it runs on a different time scale, as it were, and it is time. So if you take a young baby and compare it with a grandparent or great-grandparent, with that 4th dimension of time, you can see how that young child will turn into something that looks very different, and yet it is the same thing over 70 or 80 years or whatever. So all this thing about moving from 3D to 5D is not exactly correct. It's moving from 4 to 5D. And again, you've got number confirmation. The 4 and the 5 makes 9, which is completion. I shall probably make a video today on this purge. We've got what is called an imbalance or a tilt to the earth. So to bring things back to a imbalance is an evening. The evening and the morning was the first day, and that's going to be played out. There will be an evening which will follow a morning, because a lot will be purged. This has been corrected before with the introduction of Rh negative blood. So what most likely will happen is you'll see an increase in Rh negative blood and a massive decrease in Rh H positive blood to balance things out, because that was put into the program to try and correct a problem that had developed. But it'll all work out nicely anyway. It's something to be celebrated, everything that goes on, good or bad, because it's a diagnostic zone. It's testing everything out just to confirm the perfection of the creation. It's a carbon something else that's not in this physical reality as we know it here in this existence. I know it's like everything though. It's some people are better at woodwork, or they can play music. You've got varying gifts and skills. It's whether they can be unlocked in each individual. So hence some are far more in tune with the unseen, the spiritual, the mediums as it were. And artists as well are a kind of medium, expressing outwardly what is channeled through them. I mean, it's no accident that on YouTube, I mean, why is it called YouTube? Because we project out, and that projecting out can be stretched out and looks like a tube. And then you have channels. Well, that has multiple meanings to that. So it is channeling the information through. But I'd estimate for every 100 people, only one will listen. It has to be this way. It's just the way it is. It just is, which is justice. Yeah, I forgot to say, Calvary basically means cranium, which is another name for skull. That's where it all takes place. It's all in the mind. This is just a realm of reflections. So everything external is reflecting something back in which to say, not to react to, and oh, we don't like this, don't like that, don't agree with that. It's what is the lesson in it. It's like a piece of wire, and you've got two ends and not realising it is the same piece of wire because it's opposite polarities of the same thing. It's what I spoke about in the last video. It's the bounce back. It's just like a reflection in the mirror. Left becomes right. So this is why what the system is giving is not actually evil at all. It's been scrambled and flipped polarity. But it's actually quite easy to decode once you sort of see the pattern with it. So the perspex on every shop counter, and the fact it was 2020, it's all to do with vision. The lockdown just meant meditate. But you can see how meditate turned into lockdown would seem to be its opposite. But it's undoing that twist, because every plot has a twist. That's basically how the whole thing works, really.